So it's part 2 of our BMW S1000RR demonstration. So we're into the statuses on the petrol injection system. We can see all the statuses of all these switches on the system. So clutch switch, starter switch, brake switch, side stand switch, and all the other systems we can see there in their list. Those are displayed and shown as to whether they're active, not active, pressed, not pressed, open, closed, up, down, all those kinds of things. And we can see them in a text format, or double click on each line and you can see the graphical display, which just makes it easier for you to see that. So if your bike is not quite next to the PC, you can just wander over to the bike displayed in graph mode. In that example there, press the mode switch on the handlebars and you can see that the button is working quite easily by looking at the graph rather than the text, which may be a little bit more difficult to see. And we can see all the different information there. So we've got 28 statuses in total on this particular bike. So we can just see very easily whether or not these switches are operating correctly. That could help you if you're trying to find a particular problem, that something is not actually working, and make sure the status is correct for it. Or it could be something like a intermittent side stand switch problem, which may just show up when you're riding the bike. So you could just grab a bit of the loom and just see if there's an intermittent contact on that and see if that shows up on the screen. So a very quick, easy way of testing all these statuses and switches. We can see all the different modes selected as well. Then we move on to the ECU info, so it just gives you some data about the ECU itself. And then we can click onto the activation. So these are areas where we can turn things on or off to test them, perform any system activation is basically to check components are operating. So down the bottom there we've got a throttle actuation operation check. So this is a very simple check, you just follow procedure. The display didn't show up very well on the screen recording, but as you open the throttle, that goes up to 100% and back down again and just confirms that it's operating correctly. So that's a very simple check just to make sure that the throttle is working completely throughout the range, just to ensure there's no issues with the throttle potentiometer. So we've got actual TPS voltage, so on these TPS systems we've actually got 2. So they confirm basically that each one is working correctly. It's just a more accurate way of doing it. Previous older models would just have 1 TPS voltage. Newer ones will have 2 or maybe even 3 in some circumstances. Then we're on to the settings. So we've got self-adapters, parameter setting. This can vary from bike to bike, model to model, as to what is actually being reset. So in this one it's just for the throttle in this particular instance. So what we're doing here, I'll just wander over to the bike, grab the throttle, open it up and just follow what it tells me to do on the screen. Turn the ignition off, so that latches the new information to the ECU, so it then records the correct ECU position. So voltages will just drift a little bit over time, so it just makes the whole fueling much more accurate. So, and then this is just an adaptation value for idling. So it's just a start the engine, so you're starting the engine, run the motor at idle, and it will just check that everything is happening as it should and adjust any adaptive values that need to be adjusted to keep the bike idling at the idle speed required. So we just start the motor, we can see counting down, keep the engine running for 10 seconds and it counts down. And then we're at 0, turn engine off. That is all that adaptive idling all preset. So that was part 2. Part 3 will be along hopefully soon.